Happy Friday, Ninja viewers. Oops. The car does a lot better when you put the key in it. Alright, I hope you guys are doing well. I am headed to run a couple quick errands this Friday morning. Well, it's not morning anymore. I got up this morning and I got the kids off to school. Got some stuff together for work. Typical sitting in front of the computer day. It's a very cold, very rainy, very fall day here in Central Ohio, which means that I haven't looked at the forecast for tomorrow, but my idea of spending Saturday out on the bike and getting some really good footage for you guys may not happen. The window for awesome weather to go and do something like that may be closing. We may be hitting that point of the year where, unlike some of the other areas of the country, Ohio is definitely one of the places where there is definitely an off season for motorcycles. You know, I know some people, and have known some people, that will ride all through the winter. Even put chains on their tires and ride in the snow. Crazy bastards. I'm not quite that hardcore. If I didn't have a choice, you know, I'd make it work, but I do have a choice, so I'm not gonna do that. Riding in the snow I've done it before. It's not fun. It's not fun. It's one thing if you slip on the road and you have 4 wheels. It's another thing when you slip on the road and there's only 2 wheels holding you up. I mean, and you got a bike that weighs close to 1,000 pounds. Whew, that hurts. Not to mention the expense of fixing a bike. So, all right, I'll have to run some errands. Back from running my errands today, and it's late in the afternoon. I am attempting to, I put some new settings in the camera today, because today is one of those boring vlogs that I talked about yesterday, in that there was me sitting in front of the computer a lot. And so anyway, the stuff that I am filming today, I put some new settings in the camera that completely neutralizes the colors for the footage that gets taken, and then it increases the dynamic range between the highlights and the shadows, with the hopes being then when I pull that into the editing software, I'm going to do some I'm going to attempt some advanced color grading. I've been doing some rather neophyte beginner color grading in my videos here recently with this camera, but as I get more familiar with how it all works, I'm recognizing that the way I've been filming, the camera is already making some decisions for me in terms of color grading on the footage that I take. So now what I'm going to do is it's basically creating a very neutral, very flat footage for everything that I record, and then when I bring it into Premiere and I go to edit it, I will be applying the color grading and stuff myself in post-production, hopefully getting a more dynamic range, give me a little bit more control and power to make it, look more cinematographic. Anyway, learning. That's the point of this exercise, to learn and hopefully entertain in the process. Oh, Ninja Wife is woke up this morning really sore from physical therapy that she started yesterday for that injury in her shoulder. But as she did the first set of exercises, thankfully we have a hot tub, so she was able to get in there and get the muscle warmed up and do her exercises and get some ibuprofen in there. And once she got moving, she actually had a little bit more range of motion than she's had the last couple days. So yay for that. And she's at the school now, which means I don't have to pick up Ninja Scoot today. So it's Friday. One of the things I'm doing tonight is I'm taking this pork butt, which is in here. We have this delicious 8.5. What does it say there? It's upside down. Almost 8.5 pounds of beautiful marbled pork shoulder. The Boston butt with the shoulder bone in it. So tonight, I'm going to pop that bad boy. I'm going to cover it in my own secret dry rub, and I'm going to let it sit overnight in the fridge uncovered with that rub on it. And tomorrow morning I'm going to fire up the smoker. We are going to smoke that bad boy low and slow, and probably about 2 or 3 hours with full smoke. I use actually I use Jim Beam white oak barrels. They take the old barrels from when they bottle the whiskey. They take those barrel casks and they grind them up into little chips, and they make these little pucks that go in my smoker. So you got this Jim Beam flavored white oak smoker pucks for the smoker. I'll smoke that pork butt for about 2 to 3 hours, about 3 hours, and then because whenever you're smoking something, the smoke flavor that gets imparted into the food, that really only the meat can only soak up so much smoke flavor. And usually after about 2 to 3 hours, you've reached your max. That's as good as it's gonna get. So what ends up happening is, a lot of times, if you put a big hunk of meat in the smoker and you smoke it for 2 to 3 hours, but then you leave it uncovered, and you continue to smoke longer than that, you're just wasting your smoker chips, and you're not imparting any more smoke, and there's a good chance you might dry out the meat, because you need to get it up to about 200 degrees so that on these cheaper tough cuts of meat, that 200 degrees is the point when the collagen in the meat actually starts to break down, and that's when it becomes really tender, and you can just tear it apart with your fingers, and that's where pulled pork and brisket and things like that, you got to get that meat to about 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and once that happens, oh man, succulent. So what I do is I'll smoke it for about 2 to 3 hours, make sure I got the smoke flavor and then I want, but then I'll stop the smoker box, I'll take the meat out, I'll wrap it in some foil and put it back in there, and then let it cook low and slow until it gets up to that 200 degree mark. I mean, the smoker, I'll only, max, I'll set it at 220 degrees, oftentimes 200 if I have enough time, and just let it slowly get up there. But somewhere around 210, 220, 230 degrees is about where you want to cook, and no hotter than that. Just hot enough to get it to 200. Once you get it to 200, boom, it's gonna be so good. So you guys of course will be joining me for that tomorrow as we're doing the preparation, and then as we dive in and enjoy it. Tomorrow will be my actual celebration of my cake day, as yesterday was just business as usual for the most part. The weather forecast isn't looking very promising. I just checked it. Tomorrow's gonna be cold and rainy and windy, so no motorcycle riding for me tomorrow. That's okay. That's all right. We'll just hang out together as a fam. Definitely gonna put some logs in the fireplace. That'll be nice, huh? Okay. Next order of business. Figure out what we're gonna have for dinner. Okay, Ninja viewers. So. I guess I'm okay with as I've mentioned earlier, if you've made it all the way to this video, or if you've made it all the way to this point in the video, as I was mentioning, I made some changes to the camera today, and I'm happy with the neutral settings that come here, Jade. I'm happy with the neutral settings that I put in the camera as far as the colors go. However, I switched from manual mode. Those of you who are photographers or are familiar with exposure, normally I run this camera on manual mode. So forgive me, you non-technical photograph types. I'm going to get technical for a second. There are a few of you who watch my vlogs occasionally that I know are familiar with exposure and all this stuff. So normally when I'm shooting, I run the camera in manual mode so that I have control over the ISO, which is the speed of in the old days would have been the speed of the film that you put in the camera, which is basically how light sensitive the film is in the camera. higher the ISO, the more sensitive it is to light, but ultimately then you get a noisier picture. And in the case of digital cameras, it's the same thing. You know, it's the process is different because, of course, it's digital versus film, but essentially higher sensitivity to light means more noise. So the best cameras, the best digital cameras do really well with high ISO and low light, but they're also very expensive. And so in running in manual mode, I can force the camera to stay at a certain ISO, and then I will adjust the aperture, which is how big the opening is that allows light into the lens. You know, so the smaller the aperture number, the bigger, the wider it is open. It's kind of counterintuitive. The larger the aperture number, then the smaller the hole is. So it's letting less light in. But so a fast lens is considered a lens that allows you to run really wide open. So, you know, 2.8 or smaller number, larger. Anyway. And then shutter speed. Well, when you're filming or when you're videoing, shutter speed shutter speed is how fast the shutter opens and closes to expose the film with the light coming through the lens. Shutter speed opens and closes. That's the shutter speed. The faster your shutter speed, the less light comes in. The slower your shutter speed, the more light comes in. So, you know, there's this triangle where the three things fit together, and essentially, depending on how you adjust the one, it affects the other, and ultimately it comes down to exposure. And an overexposed film is everything's really white and washed out, and underexposed is everything's really dark. Well, normally I run this camera in manual mode because of the fact that this particular camera, while it's the best budget 4K camera on the market, it sucks in low light. Anything over 800 ISO on this thing, it gets so grainy and crappy that it's just, in my opinion, it's not even useful for video. Like, I can't, in normal conditions, like just my kitchen today, plenty of natural light coming in from outside, plenty of overhead lights in the kitchen, but running it in shutter priority. I forgot to say, I run my shutter priority, I film at 24 frames per second, and then I run my shutter at 50. So, because essentially, if you want to get that, what's considered, you know, 35 millimeter film video kind of cinematography kind of style, where the motion sequences has got a nice consistent blur. Whatever your frames per second that you're shooting at, you multiply that times 2 to determine your shutter speed. So that if your shutter speed is twice the frames per second that you're shooting, you get, you know, a car that's moving or anybody's running or anything that has fast motion, there's a nice motion blur there, and it looks realistic, and your eyes have been trained to it from watching years and years of movies and things like that. So on this camera, I thought today, what if while in addition to all the other changes I made, I thought, why don't I set it to shutter priority at 50? I'll set the ISO at auto, and I'll just run and gun with it today and see how it does. Well, this camera, you know, it's... So anyway, long story short, epic failure today. I'm sorry. I apologize for the crappy video quality of this vlog from the get-go. Lesson learned. So I'll stick with the changes to the color profile that I made. I'm shooting with something called Cine Type D, which is it's already kind of a neutral film or neutral setting. And then I even knocked down a few more settings in order to really kind of flatten out the film so that when I want to do color grading, I have a little bit more control. However, because most of the stuff that I shot today was so grainy and crappy, I didn't even really get to put it to the test. So, learning process. Anyway, you know what? If you are a Ninja viewer and you made it all the way through this crappy vlog and you're still with me, thank you so much. I love you guys. That's amazing. Because even I was struggling to get through editing this. I had to stop and turn around and say, you know what? I'm not even going to vlog anymore today. I'm just going to close it out. I'm just going to leave these long-winded crap in here. Just as a reminder to me that if you're going to make changes, do them incrementally. Don't change too many things at once, because you might end up with unsatisfactory results. So again, if you're still with me in this video, thanks so much for watching. I shall see you all tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share these videos, except probably not this one. Oh, man. Tomorrow, gonna be a fun day. Celebration of Ninja 614 Cake Day continues. Right? Right, JJ? Right? Okay. Bye. Hey, Ninja viewers. I was thinking, you've made it to the end of this video. Why don't you click my face and subscribe to the channel? It'd help me out. Click it. Or if you're on your app, on your iPhone, you can rotate your phone back to portrait and click the little subscribe button that's down there. It'll be on your lower right around where your thumb is when you're holding your phone. Click it. Click subscribe. Thanks. Appreciate it. You guys are swell. Become a Ninja viewer. Good for you.